Good morning. We go straight to a Fox Weather alert, a desperate search for survivors in Mississippi this morning after multiple tornadoes leave at least 14 people dead. One monster twister believed to be a mile wide, carving a path of destruction that stretches over 100 miles.
The small town of Rolling Fork was hit first. Just before 9 p.m., the tornado flattening homes, toppling power lines, downing trees as it swept through several communities. Storm chasers say it sparked multiple explosions. A second twister touching down in the city of Marie, where the damage there is apparently extensive. This map shows just how many Mississippi Delta communities were hit.
Yeah, there's the path right there. The powerful system also triggering flood warnings for millions. And this morning, more than 100,000 people at least are without power. Let's go straight to Chief Meteorologist Rick Reichmuth, who's tracking the storm. Rick.
Yeah, so all of this happened after sunset last night, and we still haven't had any sun yet. So, we've got about 2 more hours until sun rises in Rolling Fork. We're going to get a lot of images coming up there, but it's been a long and really scary night dealing with all of this, with the power out and then without any sunrise. All the search and rescue operations certainly very difficult. This is a look at that line of storms that moved through the first town that was hit by this tornado, likely the same tornado that stayed on the ground all the way through here. But the first point was just after 9 o'clock in Rolling Fork, and then it stayed on the ground and hit a number of communities, likely around 80 to 100 miles long in that path. Today, they'll be out there surveying it to get an exact sense of if this tornado was on the ground the entire time, to see exactly how wide it was, at what points and such. But at the immediate, it's about search and rescue efforts. You can get an idea of this cell moving through. Today, I will tell you the energy is much lower, so less of a threat of severe weather today. That will help, certainly, all these people without power. Today, you've got good weather behind this storm. The severe weather moves a little bit farther off towards the east, more of a rainy day. Tomorrow, a bigger threat for severe weather across parts of the south. And we've been in a really active severe weather pattern this year, guys. Normally, severe weather season really peaks up in April and May. This year, we've had well above average activity so far, and we have another threat coming, probably a significant threat this coming week.
Was there a lot of warning before this?
This was a really well advertised event. We knew that yesterday was going to be a really active event. That said, the tornado warned storm in Rolling Fork had about 6 minutes of warning from when they first, but it was the beginning of this cell really rotating, about 6 minutes between the time that it was warned and it hit that town. I will tell you, the cell was also moving at about 65 miles an hour. So imagine the wind of a tornado, but the forward motion of that tornado at about the speed you would do on an interstate. So it moving so fast, it gives very little time for people to react.
And Rick, a mile wide, how common is that?
I mean, it happens, and certainly this is the area where you see this happening. It's one of the big ones. You get these big ones that can be a mile, mile and a half wide. When it happens, this is the kind of destruction that you often see with it. You like when tornadoes happen, sometimes you get those EF1s that are just drop down for a little bit of time. But a mile wide can happen, certainly can, and this looks to be one of those.
There's some early images there from last night in Rolling Fork, Mississippi, of what kind of damage we have begun to see. Let's bring in Jose Watson. He's a Mississippi Highway Patrol trooper. We're happy to have him with us this morning. Jose, thank you for your time. As we just mentioned, this hit just around 9 p.m. last night in the darkness. Have you, in the Mississippi Highway Patrol, yet been able to survey the damage?
Well, we haven't had any daylight just yet. We stayed out last night until about 1 o'clock this morning, our time. We called off everything at that time to try to make as many assessments as we possibly could. We did a lot of search and rescue. And we was waiting on the sunlight to come up to give us a better scheme of, a better light so that we can get out there and get back at it and try to find if there's any other signs of life in the rumble out there in the morning.
Jose, the structures, I mean, I know it's a wide swath of area, but is this an area that expects a lot of tornadoes and therefore the homes are prepared for it? Or what kind of wreckage are we looking at here?
Well, I'm going to just say this is Mississippi, and it's the Mississippi Delta, so it's flat land. Anytime we have weather like this come in, you always expect the worst. We plan for it. The housing in the area are not equipped or can withstand winds. A lot of the areas are wooden homes or trailer houses. Have some brick structures in the area, but they're not able to withstand the tough wind that we had on the tornadoes of last night.
Jose, you posted on Facebook last night right away saying, hey, don't come here. If you're thinking of getting on the road and coming here, don't do it because the roads aren't passable yet. At this point, after we're, say, 9 hours into this, are the roads clear so that you can get in the people that you need for search and rescue efforts?
Your main highways, your main thoroughfares in the area are clear, except for maybe one highway, 149, which is still impassable completely due to power lines down, trees are down. You have a lot of power line poles that are still down even as we speak. Crews were out last night. There are still some crews are out this morning. Some are still en route to us here in Rolling Fork and Silver City and across the Delta to get these. We're still. I'm in there broadcasting to you this morning because we don't have power here, and we're trying to. That's why it's so important for us to have the sunlight first thing in the morning so that we can continue our search and rescue efforts.
Well, Jose, we'll be thinking about you today. Best of luck. It's going to be a very rough couple hours, I think, for people. The emotional toll when you see the sun come up at that first time and you get a view of what this is for people, it is. Every time I see it, it is so devastating for people. So you have a lot of work to do and a lot of emotional work to do throughout the day for the people of your community. So best of luck to you with that.
Thank you so much.
I'll tell you what, go to Fox Weather. Download your Fox Weather app. If you haven't, I will tell you, Fox Weather is doing such an amazing job. You can stream live weather broadcasting, and they are covering this story like nobody is. And we have reporters on the field there watching this. So download the Fox Weather app. You can also get on any of your connected TV devices. Doing an amazing job there.
That's important for the residents, but also there's so many Americans that volunteer in these situations, so they need to know what's going on as well. Thank you, Rick.
Right.
All right, Rick. Talk to you later in the morning. Appreciate it. We're back with a Fox Weather Alert, a desperate search for survivors in Mississippi this morning after multiple tornadoes leave at least 14 people dead. One monster twister believed to be a mile wide, carving a path of destruction that stretches over 100 miles. The small town of Rolling Fork was hit just before 9 p.m. last night. The tornado flattening homes, toppling power lines, and downing trees as it swept through several communities. Let's turn to Chief Meteorologist Rick Reichman for our Fox weather forecast. Rick, rough night.
A really rough night, and that tornado happened post-sunset last night, and sun rises in about an hour and 20 minutes. So people have been without power across there, have not seen really what has happened, and that sun, when it comes up, is going to be a shock for so many people. 38 tornado warnings issued by the local National Weather Service offices. This line right here is the one that caused what appears at this point to be that strongest tornado. And you can get an idea. This is a power outage map. Go down here where Rolling Fork is, and almost everybody in that county is without power. So a rough morning here. We're going to have a rough day today as power is getting back on, but also search and rescue efforts continue. This is a line of storms, a much weaker storm at this point, and today we still have a little bit of a threat for severe weather, but far diminished compared to yesterday. And then tomorrow this increases back up just a little bit. That said, not as bad as yesterday, but we do have that threat again just to the south of where that line of storms happened yesterday, but severe weather still in the area. All right, Rachel, send over to you.
Thank you, Rick. Well, we have another scary story this morning. 3 people are dead and many more now blinded after eye drops are contaminated with a rare drug-resistant bacteria. The eye drops, Esri Care and Delsum Pharma, were recalled back in February, but the outbreak continues. The CDC reports
Gastro about Rinvoq and learn how AbbVie could help you save.
We begin this hour with a Fox News alert. A desperate search for survivors in Mississippi this morning. Multiple tornadoes left at least 14 people dead. One monster twister, believed to be a mile wide, carved a path of destruction with stretches over 100 miles.
The small town of Rolling Fork was hit just before 9 p.m. The tornado flattened homes, toppled power lines, and downed trees as it swept through several communities.
Let's go straight to Chief Meteorologist Rick Reichmuth, who has been tracking this storm. Rick, good morning.
Good morning. That town of Rolling Fork has about 1,750 people. So imagine a small town like that. Everybody knows everybody, and now you're going to have everybody who knows somebody if you weren't yourself impacted by the storm, it's going to be a really rough day for people as the sun comes up just exactly 1 hour from now. This year has been a really active tornado season. We've had 282 tornadoes. Typically, so far in a season, we would have 174 tornadoes. And you get a look at that. This is just your statistical averages. March right there. We are headed into our what is generally really active months of April and May and June. Doesn't mean that'll be the case this year, but certainly that trend has been the case. All of this has been those storms that have been coming across California have made their way across parts of the South where it's been really warm, above average temperatures for a long time, and those temps are still remaining warm, and I think this trend will continue. So far, this is the worst of those storms that we saw across parts of Mississippi, cutting in towards Alabama as well. A couple reports of them in Tennessee and Arkansas also. But take a look at this now. Energy levels have wound down quite a bit, and so we're not looking at that threat today for the severe weather, but we do get that threat coming back tomorrow. Now, this right here is where that line of storms move through. Take a look at the forecast. Today, we're into the upper 70s. Few showers come back into tomorrow, and where you see that red, that's a severe weather threat. I think it's going to be just to the south of where that line of tornado path went through. But today, a very, very slight chance of a few severe storms, probably just some strong wind, and then that threat here, that where you see that red, that's going to be our bullseye for some more severe storms. So, guys, this is the time of year we can get it. Unfortunately, this year they've been really extreme, and the people across the South, there's been flooding concern because they've had so much moisture with it, so it doesn't take much for it to flood, and they are kind of storm weary at this point from so many storms, and then obviously this large one that hit overnight. And now 80 degrees. Yeah, which I tell you, sometimes you can get these storms that can be really cold behind it. So you'd probably rather at least be warm because nobody has power. If you have a nighttime temperatures where it gets into the 30s and 40s after these storms, that's really brutal as well. But yeah, a warm day for them today as they're doing search and rescue.
Rick, I'm always interested in warning, and we kind of talked about this earlier. There was a general understanding that this storm was coming, but how much time did each individual community have for like, hey, it's coming your direction?
Yeah, so Rolling Fork was the first town that this tornado hit, and they only had 6 minutes of warning from the time the warning was hit till the time the tornado hit the town, so not much. But the area yesterday had a really elevated threat for severe weather, including tornadoes. It was really well forecast that yesterday had the chance for some large destructive tornadoes, and it ended up verifying.
It's a good question. As those storms continue to move east, perhaps some of those communities further east got a little more warning. It's a great question for the mayor of Amory, Mississippi. His name is Corey Glenn, and he joins us now this morning. Mayor, great to have you with us this morning. We wish you the best. Our thoughts and prayers with your community. What, to the question Pete asked our Fox weather expert Rick Reichmuth, what kind of warning did you have in Amory?
So we had approximately about 15 to 18 minutes worth of warning and pre-warning, and we're aware that the storm was on the approach. We have a great news firm around here that keeps us informed with things that are going on. So we were forewarned with the activities that were on the approach.
Mr. Mayor, I know we could see a little bit of destruction behind you. Talk to me about what happened last night. What was the storm like to go through?
Yeah, so it was, Amory's a small community of about 7,000 people. It's a very small town. It is a catastrophic storm that's hit the community. A lot of damage. It's destroyed approximately 60% of the community. A lot of trees down. A lot of homes that are tore up. But as the sun comes up, we'll assess the damage. But it's tore up quite extensively.
Mayor, what percentage of the houses in your town are mobile? Do you have any idea? I know it's still dark and there's no light, but do you have any idea of how many people's homes are actually damaged?
Yeah, I would say 40% of the homes in the town or in the community are damaged of some sort. Not many mobile homes in the particular area where the storm hit, but a lot of strong structures that are damaged. Again, we'll wait till the sun comes up in the morning or when dawn breaks, and we'll assess the damage. But at this time, we don't foresee any casualties that we have at this time. We don't know of any as far as any death rate or anything like that, but it all looks good at this time.
And Mayor, just to that, is everybody accounted for? Are you hearing yet of any people who people are still searching for that they need to be working on search and rescue efforts in your town?
No, all the recon's been conducted thus far. We've accounted for everybody thus far. Everything looks good right now. Again, we'll wait till dawn breaks, and then we'll assess the damage further.
Mayor, I know that you're waiting for daylight. It should be happening soon there in Mississippi. Can you tell us where it is you're standing right now? We see the destruction behind you. I don't know if you can show us more, but what part of town are you standing in right now?
So I'm actually on the northwest portion of the community, actually where the storm actually entered the town. I'm actually in a supermarket area. The store behind us, Piggly Wiggly, is destroyed. As we go further east here, just to the east, everything behind me is destroyed. So most of the homes, a lot of the trees, a devastating storm, but we're resilient people and we'll overcome.
No doubt, Mr. Mayor. We're thinking about you this morning. I know prayers coming your way from across America. Mayor Corey Glenn of Amory, Mississippi. Thank you, sir. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless.
Yeah.
Sign up for a yearly plan. Available for a limited time.
We're back with some breaking news headlines, starting with the Fox weather alert. A desperate search for survivors in Mississippi this morning after multiple tornadoes leave at least 14 people dead. One monster twister, believed to be a mile wide, carving a path of destruction that stretches over 100 miles. The tornado flattening homes, toppling power lines, and downing trees. Search and rescue operations will continue this morning as crews search for anyone who may have been trapped in the rubble. Now to a Fox weather alert. 23 people are now confirmed dead after multiple tornadoes ripped through Mississippi. Dozens are injured and 4 people are confirmed missing. The sun is about to rise, and then we'll have a better idea of the damage. We're staying on this story all morning long. Meanwhile, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin sending an ominous message to the West.
Good morning. We go right to a Fox weather alert. 28 people now confirmed dead after multiple tornadoes tear through Mississippi. Dozens are injured and 4 people are missing. One monster twister, believed to be a mile wide, carving a path of destruction that stretches over 100 miles.
It's a big jump in the number from 14 to 23. The small town of Rolling Fork was hit first. Just before 9 p.m., the tornado flattening homes, toppling power lines, and downing trees.
First responders actively searching for survivors, just starting to get a better picture of the full scope of the damage as the sun now comes up in the area. Let's go straight to Chief Meteorologist Rick Reichmuth, who's tracking the storm. Rick.
Hey, guys, we've been trying to get our reporter out there to report for us, but the cell tower in Rolling Fork is gone, so they can't even get any cell service in right now. But the sun is coming up. Sunrise there, local time 7:01, so exactly right now, getting the sun rising there, and we'll start to get some of these images in daylight. This tornado happening in the dark last night. We've not had any daylight just yet. So as the sun comes up, we'll get the search and rescue efforts will continue as well. That number rising to 23 fatalities, unfortunately. This is that storm right now, a weakening storm, which is good news. Today, the severe weather threat diminishes quite a bit. This is that line of storms right there. The tornado first dropped in Rolling Fork and then cut right here across parts of north central Mississippi. At one point, it looks like this tornado was on the ground probably for around almost 100 miles. This, obviously, the National Weather Service folks go out and do some investigation, make sure, see if it, sometimes the tornadoes will rise and then drop back down, and so it wouldn't be consistently on the ground. But you get the idea of probably a mile wide at some points tornado cutting right through some towns that will be forever changed from this storm. This is where we stand right now. These storms here off across parts of Georgia, heading in towards the Carolinas, much weaker. That said, today we do have a little bit of a severe threat. Could see a tornado or 2, not as strong as what we saw yesterday. Tomorrow, that severe weather threat increases again a little bit. Again, I don't think we're going to be talking about tornadoes like we saw, but you'll notice this here across parts of the Deep South. Tornado threat will continue, certainly some very strong winds and possibly some hail. Today, forecast across the area, temperatures in Rolling Fork, 80 degrees, a lot of sunshine. That's great news for us. Tomorrow, we do start to see a few showers get in there, and it looks like the severe threat stays just to the south of the area, and then get into Monday. We're going to be looking good as well. Flood threats right now, look at this. It looks like so far, at least what I've got on the map, not looking that bad. But we will continue to watch potential flooding downstream from so many of these storms. This ground is really saturated, unfortunately. All right, guys, send it back to you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rick.
We are anticipating the ability to talk to a storm chaser on the ground there in that area of the country a little bit later in this hour. And to keep up with Rick and everything you need to know about this, download the Fox Weather app or stream Fox Weather on any TV-connected device.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rick.
Heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Learn more at JesusDoll.com.
Good morning. We're off to a Fox weather alert. 28 people now confirmed dead after multiple tornadoes tear through Mississippi. Dozens are injured and 4 people are missing. One monster twister believed to be a mile wide, carving a path of destruction that stretches over 100 miles.
The small town of Rolling Fork was hit first just before 9 p.m. The tornado flattening homes, toppling power lines, and downing trees.
First responders actively searching for survivors, just starting to get a better picture of the full scope of the damage as the sun comes up right now. Let's go straight to Chief Meteorologist Rick Reichenbach, who's tracking the storm. Rick.
That tornado formed and it got really large really quickly right at Rolling Fork, which was the first town that was hit. It's right there. It's just on the east side of the Mississippi River, just a few miles east. Rachel, earlier you were saying, what kind of warning did we have across this area? Well, this was the forecast from the Storm Prediction Center for yesterday's weather. And this right here is a bullseye of very significant chance for strong tornadoes. And that is exactly in the center of that is where this tornado formed and then pulled off towards the northeast and then probably lifting up and then reforming again there across parts of northern Alabama. In the month of March, this is generally where you would see tornadoes, and you get the idea right here across parts of the south. Once you get later in towards June, moves a little more here across parts of the high plains, but this is right in the bullseye of where you would see storms this time of year. This is the latest satellite radar picture. You get an idea. These storms moved through last night, but now these storms are weakening throughout the day today or throughout this morning, and this afternoon we might see them strengthen just a little bit, bringing a little bit of a chance of severe weather. That said, take a look at that. Just noticing on our maps here, one tornado warning right on the border there of panhandle of Florida into southern Alabama. So be watching if you're right there. We could see a tornado or two pop up today across parts of the south, as well as up right there along Lake Erie. Tomorrow, a better chance for severe weather again across parts of the deep south. That said, we're not talking about significant tornadoes, I don't think, for tomorrow. Certainly nothing like we saw yesterday. All right, we have one of our Fox weather reporters, Will Nunley. He's live in Lobeville, Tennessee. Will, you're not right at the center of the storm. I'm sure you're headed there today to get to see what the damage is, but you had significant storms where you are. What are things looking like for you right now?
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, as we start to get more sunlight, we're going to see some just horrific images continue to pour in to our newsroom here from Mississippi. And this is a far-reaching system with plenty of implications. We have damage here in the Lobeville, Tennessee area. This is actually my home where we were last night. Straight line winds mainly that we think is to blame for a lot of this. But we do have utility crews that have been out all night trying to restore power to thousands in this area. About half of this county alone spent most of the night in the dark. We do have roof damage to homes, to businesses in the area. There was some search and rescue operations underway as some trees had collapsed on some homes here, but I'm fortunate to tell you this morning that everyone, at least in this area, is okay. It was able to escape the storm without injury. But there's still a lot of surveying being done, not only here, but really across parts of Middle and West Tennessee and certainly into Mississippi this morning as well. This is an area that did not receive a tornado warning, but we did have straight line wind damage, and we had wind gusts up to 60 and 70 miles per hour. A 70-mile-per-hour wind gust in a situation like this can do a lot of damage to a metal roof, and so that's what we're seeing. A lot of these Bradford pear trees and large trees that had started to, really get their leaves came in contact with this wet ground, high wind, lots of trees coming down on homes this morning. So we have utility crews working all night trying to get their lines back established, and neighbors kind of emerging here to see the damage that's been done and really calling for help and start helping each other, guys.
Yeah, Will, the first thing they have to do is clear the roads. Then you have to start to try to get power back in, and that's what you're seeing right there. But when a storm, multiple tornadoes, and certainly one tornado going potentially 100 miles long, it's a lot of people without power, a lot of people without cell service. How do they just logistically manage all of that?
it's tough because part of what we're seeing in Mississippi is these not only our reporting efforts, but search and rescue efforts are hampered by the lack of cell service, not just because towers aren't working, but they may have been destroyed completely. And so trying to coordinate those efforts right now in these early hours and early stages, which we're in right now, is still a little bit difficult. And to give you another perspective on some of the type of damage we're seeing here, you can see part of the roof of this home is gone, with it being in the street. We have lots of large power poles that got caught up in this, and just not the type that serve one or two houses, but serve thousands. And so if we're experiencing that type of damage here in Middle Tennessee, in an area that never even got a tornado warning, you can imagine what we're dealing with in Mississippi. Some very difficult hours ahead.
All right.
Thank you.
Ro, thank you so much.
Well, at least they got daylight. That's helping.
Daylight. We'll see what unfolds there in Mississippi. Don't go anywhere. Dan Bongino is going to join us live at the top of this hour.
That's right. But first, let's check in with Raymond Arroyo, who's having breakfast with friends in Leesburg, Florida. Hey, Raymond.
Guys, we're throwing out light bulbs. I'm talking about my new book, The Unexpected Light of Thomas Alva Edison. You want one? Oh. Well, don't drop it if you want it. We're going to be talking about spring break and so much more. Fox and Friends, stay there.